Triplets, Part 1. Amber and Josh. The yellow house rests quietly on a sunlit street, its cheerful exterior glowing warmly in the gentle May light. It is a charming two-story colonial, painted a soft yellow with crisp white trim and green shutters framing the windows. Fresh leaves shimmer on nearby trees, and birdsong drifts through the air. The windows are partly shaded, curtains drawn just enough to soften the mild late spring sun. A welcoming porch with white railings faces the street, and the neatly trimmed lawn is dotted with new blossoms and low shrubs just coming into full bloom. The grass is bright and alive. Everything about the house suggests comfort, routine, and a carefully maintained sense of order, except for a small blue bicycle and a soccer ball left behind in the grass near the front door, quiet signs of life and movement on a calm day. The house stands in an old, quiet, well-kept neighborhood in Roseville, California, where homes are spaced comfortably apart, and the streets are lined with mature trees that cast slow-moving shadows across the asphalt. Inside, Amber Parker lies stretched out on her bed, the sheets lightly tangled around her legs as soft ASMR sounds whisper through her headphones. Sunlight filters through the curtains, casting pale stripes across the bedroom walls. The air smells faintly of warm fabric and dust heated by the sun. From the room next door, she can hear her 9-year-old son, Ethan, playing, small footsteps crossing the floor, the muted thud of toys, his voice rising and falling as he talks to himself, fully absorbed in his own world. The ordinary sounds of the house ground her, wrapping the moment in a sense of calm familiarity. Amber drifts in and out of sleep, her thoughts loosening as the gentle sounds and murmured voices in her headphones wash over her. The steady rhythm of breathing cues, soft tapping, and whispered reassurance blur into one another, pulling her down and then letting her surface again. Time loses its shape. When she stirs more fully, something in the audio has changed. A new voice has taken over, very young, yet calm and unexpectedly soothing. It sounds like a boy, his tone soft and unhurried, each word spoken with careful ease. There is no excitement in it, only a quiet steadiness that makes it easy to listen, easy to relax. His voice seems to float just at the edge of her awareness, gentle enough not to startle her awake, yet clear enough to hold her attention as she lies still, listening. Curious, Amber lifts her phone and checks the name of the YouTube channel Chaos Kid TV. She blinks once, then taps on the profile, scanning for more videos. There are several recent uploads, ASMR recordings like the one she's listening to, but as she scrolls further down, older videos appear, different in tone and setting about gaming, challenges, and daily life. She can't explain why, but something about the boy catches her eye. She slips out of bed and walks quietly down the hall to the home office, mindful not to disturb Ethan. The house creaks softly beneath her steps. She turns on the PC, the screen lighting up the dim room as the familiar hum of the machine fills the silence. On the larger screen, she opens the channel again and clicks on one of the other videos. The boy appears on camera, young, no more than 12 or 13. He has light blonde hair and strikingly clear blue eyes. His face is still soft with youth. He sits close to the camera, speaking calmly, carefully, as if he was aware of how every word lands. Amber studies him longer than she means to. What unsettles her is not his age, nor the content of the videos, but the familiarity. There is something unmistakable in his features, the shape of his eyes, the line of his mouth, the way he tilts his head as he speaks. A younger version of her husband, Josh, stares back at her from the screen. The realization settles slowly, sending a faint chill through her despite the summer heat. She leans back in the chair, headphones still on, listening to the boy's calm voice. A thought slips into her mind before she can stop it, quiet at first, almost dismissible. Could he be one of them? One of her triplets, kidnapped 10 years ago. The idea feels impossible, reckless, and yet it refuses to let go. Amber leans closer to the screen, studying the boy's face with a sudden, painful intensity. She pauses the video, her fingers trembling slightly as the image freezes. Just above his left eye, partly hidden by the fall of his blonde hair, she sees it, a thin, pale scar. Her breath catches. Connor had that same scar. He had gotten it years ago, falling from a swing in the backyard, crying more from shock than pain. Her eyes drift lower, tracing familiar shapes she knows by heart. On the boy's upper lip, just to one side, sits a small mole. In the exact same place. Connor's mole. Her chest tightens, memories pressing in from all sides. The weight of the loss, buried but never gone, rises sharply to the surface. Logic tells her it can't be him. It shouldn't be him. But the details linger, undeniable and cruel in their precision. Amber doesn't move. She simply stares at the frozen image on the screen, the soft hum of the computer filling the room, as her thoughts drift back almost 10 years to a hot July day in 2009. The park is bright and alive, the air thick with warmth and the smell of cut grass. Amber walks slowly along the path. She is pregnant and pushing a stroller built for three, its wheels humming softly against the pavement. The triplets Cooper, Carter, and Connor are 3 years old, their small bodies restless with energy even after a long afternoon outside. Their voices overlap in bursts of laughter and half-formed sentences. Earlier, they had fed the ducks by the lake, tiny hands scattering crumbs while the birds crowded close, quacking impatiently. Later, they played on the playground, climbing, sliding, taking turns on the swings while Amber watched from a bench, counting them again and again out of habit. 1, 2, 3. Always three. Now they are on their way home. The stroller feels heavier, the day beginning to settle into that slow, golden fatigue that comes before evening. As she approaches the pedestrian tunnel beneath the road, the temperature drops slightly, the light dimming as shadows swallow the path. A woman steps toward her inside the tunnel, smiling warmly. She pauses, looking down at the stroller. "Triplets?" she asks, admiration softening her voice. Amber smiles back, used to the attention, slowing to a stop. She never hears the man approach. An arm locks around her from behind, sudden and crushing. Before she can scream, before she can turn, a cloth is pressed hard against her mouth and nose. The smell hits her instantly, sharp, chemical, overwhelming. Her body fights it for a second. Her vision blurs, the tunnel tilts, the world goes dark. When she comes back to herself, the light is too bright. Voices surround her, panicked, overlapping, distant. Strangers kneel beside her, hands hovering, someone asking if she can hear them. Her head throbs as she pushes herself upright, confusion giving way to terror in a single, terrible thought. She turns. The stroller is gone. The space where it stood is empty, the tunnel stretching ahead and behind her as if nothing had ever been there at all. Cooper, Carter, and Connor, gone. Amber gasps softly and blinks, the memory snapping apart like a broken thread. The office comes rushing back into focus, the low hum of a computer, the muted daylight leaking through the blinds, the familiar walls of her home. Her hands are clenched in her lap, her pulse racing as if she has just been running. For a moment, she must remind herself where she is. The video is still paused on the screen. The boy's face hasn't moved. Those same blue eyes stare out at her, calm and patient, frozen in time. The scar above his left eye seems more visible now, the small mole on his upper lip impossible to ignore. Amber swallows hard. The house is quiet except for the distant sounds of Ethan moving around in his room, proof that this is now. She is here, May 7, 2019, not the park, not the tunnel, but the past has followed her anyway. She reaches up and slowly pulls the headphones from her ears. The silence that follows feels heavy, unnatural. Her reflection flickers faintly in the dark computer screen, eyes wide, face drained of color. It can't be, she tells herself. It shouldn't be. And yet her gaze drifts back to the paused image, her heart pounding as the impossible thought refuses to loosen its grip. A small, fragile smile touches Amber's lips as another thought rises through fear and disbelief. Of course, she thinks. Of course, Connor would grow up to be a YouTuber. He had been the youngest of the triplets, the one who was always performing without realizing it. He sang to himself constantly, danced whenever music played, even if it was just a tune from the radio drifting in through an open window. He staged elaborate shows for his stuffed animals, lining them up on the couch and bowing dramatically at the end, waiting for applause that only Amber ever gave him. Cooper, the eldest, had been his opposite in so many ways. He was the leader, the one who decided what they would play and how it would unfold. He came up with the big ideas, adventures, games, imaginary worlds, and expected his brothers to follow, which they usually did. Carter, though, had always been different from both. Gentle and careful, he moved through the world with quiet curiosity. Even at 3, he loved numbers and letters, pointing them out on signs and books, asking questions far beyond his age. And when the brothers fought, as brothers always do, it was Carter who stepped in, who somehow found the right words to calm them. His hugs were the best, warm, lingering, full of a tenderness that made everything feel right again. The smile fades as quickly as it came, leaving behind a familiar ache. Amber exhales slowly, her eyes drifting back to the boy on the screen, the memories pressing close, vivid and alive, as if they have only just left the room. The years after the kidnapping had been brutal. A massive investigation followed, one that spilled across front pages nationwide, Amber and Josh's faces frozen in grainy photographs beneath relentless headlines. The police believed the man and the woman in the tunnel had worked as a team, practiced and deliberate, but there were no leads, no witnesses who could offer anything solid. No fingerprints, no trail. It was as if the couple and the boys with them had simply vanished into thin air. Ethan was born November 12, 2009. He grew up in a house shaped by absence. A father who was either always working or consumed by the investigation, chasing theories long after the police had gone quiet. A mother who hovered too closely, who watched every step he took, every breath he drew, as if the world itself might reach out and take him if she looked away for even a moment. Ethan grew up alongside the ghosts of three brothers he had never known. Their room remained untouched, preserved like a shrine, 3 small beds, shelves of toys, clothes folded neatly in drawers that were never opened. A place frozen in time. Josh and Amber tried. They truly did. They took Ethan on vacations, cheering him up at soccer matches, stood in line for rides at Disneyland under bright blue skies. There were photographs of smiling faces, arms wrapped around each other, moments that looked happy enough from the outside. But the smiles never quite reached their eyes. The loss followed them everywhere, quiet but constant, settling into the cracks of everyday life. And now, sitting in the dim office with a paused video glowing on the screen, Amber feels it all rise again, past and present folding in on each other, refusing to stay apart. Amber keeps watching, moving carefully through the boy's videos, searching for anything, any detail, that might tell her who he really is. She starts with the earliest uploads, her finger hovering before she clicks, as if the truth might shift if she hesitates long enough. In one of the first videos, the boy looks a little younger, his face rounder, his voice still soft but less practiced. He smiles shyly at the camera and introduces himself. He says he is 12 years old and living in Idaho, but has no mention of the city. His name is Colin. The video turns informal as he stands and lifts the camera, giving a brief tour of the place where he lives. It is a group home, he says casually, as if it is the most ordinary thing in the world. He lives there with 12 other boys and 2 caregivers. The boys are all between 11 and 15, loud and energetic, their voices echoing faintly down the hallway as he walks past open doors. Colin stops outside a small bedroom and steps inside. He explains that he shares the room with his best friend, Mason. 2 beds sit opposite each other, mismatched posters on the walls, clothes draped carelessly over chairs. Mason leans into the frame, grinning, throwing an arm around Colin's shoulders. The next video is a Q&A. Colin, Mason, and another boy named Tyler answer questions from comments. The boys joke easily, teasing each other about who snores the loudest, who eats the most snacks, who would survive longest in a zombie apocalypse. Their laughter feels unforced, genuine. For a moment, they are just kids. Then the questions turn more serious, asking about the past of the boys and why they live in a group home. Amber watches in silence, her chest tight. The smile is still there, but softer now, more careful. Colin tells the camera that he doesn't know anything about his past. Not really. He explains that he was found alone outside a police station when he was very young. No parents. No explanation. Just a note tucked into his jacket. He reads the words aloud from memory as if he has repeated them many times before. Take good care of him. His name is Colin. That was all. He says he doesn't know his real last name. He doesn't know his real birthday either. September 1st is what he celebrates, but it's only a guess, picked by a social worker because it had to be something. He shrugs as he says it, trying to make it sound unimportant, though his eyes flicker briefly away from the camera. Colin goes on to explain that he lived with a foster family for several years. They were kind, he says. He liked them. They wanted to adopt him. For a while, he thought that might finally be it, that he would get to stay. Then the foster mother got cancer. His voice grows quieter as he explains how everything changed after that. Hospital visits, stress, whispers behind closed doors. Eventually, the family decided they couldn't care for him anymore. They gave him up. After that came more foster homes, short stays, never long enough to settle. Different rules, different faces, different goodbyes. Until at 11, he was placed in the group home. Colin finishes the story with a small, practiced smile and a light joke, as if to smooth over what he has just shared. Amber sits motionless in the office, her throat tight, her vision blurred. The room feels suddenly too small, the air too thin. A boy with no past, no name, no birthday. Left at a police station with nothing but a note. Her hands tremble slightly as she reaches for the mouse, her mind racing, one thought drowning out all the others. He was left like a piece of garbage. Colin looks happy enough in the videos. Safe, maybe. But the ease with which he belongs there only deepens the ache inside her. She pauses the video again, studying his face as he laughs, wondering how many names he has carried in his life, and whether, somewhere beneath them all, Connor is still there waiting to be found. Amber keeps watching videos. In one of them, Colin is laughing harder than she has seen before. The title reads Ice Bucket Challenge. He stands in the courtyard of the group home with two other boys, Mason and Tyler, both of them shouting over one another, daring him to hurry up. Colin grips a plastic bucket filled with melting ice, his shoulders tense with anticipation as Mason kneels in front of him, bracing for the shock. "You ready?" Colin asks, grinning. Mason shakes his head, laughing, and turns slightly away from the camera. That's when Amber gasps. As Colin lifts the bucket, his naked back is exposed for just a second. On his left shoulder blade, clear and unmistakable, is a birthmark larger than the others, darker, almost perfectly shaped like a heart. Amber's breath leaves her in a sharp, silent rush. Her heart stutters painfully in her chest. Connor had that mark. She remembers it vividly, how she used to trace it with her finger during bath time, how she once joked that it was proof he was born loving the world a little too much. The same place. The same shape. The ice and cold water crashes down over Mason's head. The boys explode with laughter, shouting, and scrambling out of frame. But Amber doesn't hear any of it. The sound seems to drain from the room as she stares at the screen, her vision narrowing to that single detail burned into her memory. Her hands fly to her mouth as tears finally spill over, hot and unstoppable. 3 marks. A scar. A mole. A birthmark she knows better than her own reflection. Amber leans back in the chair, shaking now, the truth pressing in from every side, terrifying, impossible, and suddenly undeniable. In another video, Colin films the bus ride to school. The camera shakes slightly as the bus rattles along, voices and laughter filling the narrow space. He points the lens out the window, narrating casually as houses and trees slide past in a blur. When the bus slows, Amber's attention sharpens. The camera briefly catches a sign by the roadside as the bus turns. She pauses the video, her finger pressing down hard on the mouse. The image freezes. Her pulse spikes as she leans closer to the screen. The words are clear, unmistakable. Eagle Rock Middle School. Her breath catches. She doesn't hesitate. She opens a new tab and types the name into Google, her hands moving faster now, driven by instinct more than thought. The results load. The school is in Boise. Amber leans back slowly, the realization settling into her bones. Boise, Idaho, not California. Not somewhere unreachable or vague. A real city, a real place on a map. Colin is there. Her heart pounds as the distance between past and present suddenly feels smaller than it has in 10 years. For the first time since the tunnel, since the stroller vanished, the impossible has a location. Amber tears her eyes away from the screen and forces herself to stand. Her legs feel unsteady as she leaves the office and walks down the hall, the house suddenly too quiet, too ordinary for what she now knows. She checks on Ethan first. He's sprawled on the floor of his room, surrounded by toys, narrating some elaborate game only he understands. He looks up when she appears, smiling, immediately launching into a story about what he's building and why it's important. Amber smiles back, nodding at the right moments, answering when he pauses for breath. In the kitchen, she makes him an afternoon snack. Apple slices and crackers, a glass of juice placed carefully on the counter. Her movements are automatic, practiced from years of routine. She listens as Ethan talks, his voice filling the space with easy familiarity. School, a friend, something funny that happened earlier. She responds, but her thoughts drift elsewhere. To a boy on a screen. To a school bus in Idaho. To Boise. Even as Ethan sits at the table eating, swinging his legs beneath the chair, Amber's mind keeps returning to Colin, where he is, what he's doing at this very moment, whether he has any idea that someone, somewhere, is finally beginning to see him. She watches Ethan closely, the weight of love and fear tightening her chest all over again. 10 years ago, she lost 3 sons and now, impossibly, one of the ghosts has become real again with a name and a place. Later that day, when the light began to soften and stretch across the rooms, Amber stands alone in the kitchen with her phone in her hand. Her heart pounds as she scrolls through her contacts and taps Josh's name. He answers on the 3rd ring. She can hear the distant sounds of a hotel lobby behind him, Seattle, miles away, another world entirely. She doesn't explain. She can't. Her voice would break if she tried. "Josh," she says quietly, forcing steadiness into her tone, "I'm sending you a link to a video. I need you to watch it. All of it. Then call me back." There's a pause on the line. "Amber, what's going on?" "Just watch it," she says. She ends the call before he can ask anything more. Her hands are shaking as she sends the link, then sets the phone face down on the counter as if looking at it might make time move faster. 5 minutes pass. Each one feels endless. Then the phone rings. Amber answers immediately. Josh doesn't say hello. He doesn't ask questions. His voice is low, tight, stripped of disbelief and denial in a way that makes her chest ache. "It's Connor." Amber closes her eyes, a sob catching in her throat as the words land, not as a question, not as hope, but as certainty. In that moment, the last traces of doubt fall away. Amber doesn't argue. She doesn't question it or try to slow the thought down. She knows, deep in her body, in the place where logic has never reached, that Colin is Connor. Josh's words echo in her ears, heavy and final. It's Connor. She grips the edge of the counter, grounding herself as emotion surges through her all at once. Relief so sharp it hurts, grief for the years stolen from him, terror at what comes next. 10 years of not knowing, of imagining the worst, collapse into a single, undeniable truth. One of their sons is alive. "I know," she whispers into the phone. "I knew the second I saw him." On the other end of the line, Josh exhales shackily. She can picture him perfectly, standing still wherever he is, eyes fixed on nothing, memories crashing into him just as violently as they had into her. "The scar," he says, "the way he smiles. It's him, Amber." She presses her hand to her chest, tears sliding freely now. Colin, Connor, two names for the same boy, shaped by different lives. A child taken. A child who grew up without knowing who he was, or who loved him. "He's in Boise," she says softly. "He's in Idaho. We know where he is." The words feel unreal as she speaks them, like saying a miracle out loud might cause it to vanish. Silence stretches between them, thick with everything they have lost and everything they are suddenly daring to hope for. At last, Josh speaks again, his voice steadier now, edged with something Amber hasn't heard in years. Determination. "We're going to get our son back." Josh doesn't hesitate. "Amber," he says firmly, the emotion in his voice pulling itself into focus. "You need to call Detective Holloway, now. The one who led the investigation. Don't wait, not a minute." Her heart tightens. The name surfaces immediately, carried on years of memory and unfinished grief. The man who had sat at their kitchen table, who had promised to do everything possible, who had eventually stopped calling. "What if I'm wrong?" she asks, the doubt flickering despite everything. "What if we're wrong and—" "You're not," Josh cuts in, more certain than she has heard him in a decade. "Those marks, the scar, the timing, no one else could know him the way we do. Call him. Let the system do what it should have done 10 years ago." Amber closes her eyes. She knows he's right. This is bigger than them now. Bigger than fear. "I'll do it," she says quietly. She ends the call and stands still for a moment, phone pressed to her palm, breathing slowly as if she's about to step into cold water. Around her, the house hums with normal life, Ethan moving somewhere down the hall, a distant television, the lower of the refrigerator. Then she scrolls through her contacts, finds the old number she never had the heart to delete. Her thumb hovers. "Please," she thinks, not sure who she's asking. "Let this be real." She presses call.